Welcome to the Nerdstalgic podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
Howdy folks, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Nerdstalgic podcast. I'm your host Luke the Human. Hope you're doing well, hope you're good, as per usual. Before we get into the episode biz, I just want to say make sure that you follow me on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod to be kept up to date on everything and anything that I'm doing. Also, if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. It will help immensely. So today's episode is going to be a fun one. So I'm currently recording this in July, and I'll be completely honest, you're probably not hearing this in July. You're probably just hearing this later in the year. But as of now, it's currently July is recording this. But you might remember, some episodes back, I did a deep dive into Bioshock. I did all the Bioshock games. And I've decided that I wanted to do it again. I did say at the end of that one that I was going to look into another series. Some of you might have caught on to that. And I basically alluded that there was going to be another big series coming, like the same vein as that. But I wasn't ready to share it. Well, you're now hearing about it. So this big series that I'm wanting to look into is Assassin's Creed the Ezio collection, specifically the era of Ezio, El Dottore, from Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed Revelations. How this new series will kind of go is that because there's 3 games, I'm going to each episode is going to focus on just the one, and we're going to go through sort of the timeline of Ezio through where he first begins his adventure, becoming an assassin, to where he gets his own brotherhood, till when we get to Revelations, where we build him up to sort of finding out his place in the overall timeline of Assassin's Creed. So that'll be kind of the structure of it. What else was I wanting to say? I've got my notes down here. As I said, today we're going to be looking at Assassin's Creed 2. To be honest, you're probably thinking, why Assassin's Creed 2? Why not start with Assassin's Creed 1? And I I laugh because I know what I'm about to say. And I'll probably lose a lot of people here. Probably wouldn't want to carry on listening. But I like to be honest with you guys, and I like to be completely open with you all. So I'm just going to come out and say it. This is a bit of a story time, but I do not like Assassin's Creed 1. I don't. I really don't like it. I remember when the game first came out, I had a PS3 and an Xbox 360, and one of the games that came with my PlayStation 3 was Assassin's Creed 1. And again, I was a fan of Prince of Persia. I love the Prince of Persia games. Anybody who knows the sort of lore behind Prince of Persia and Ubisoft knows that the original idea for Assassin's Creed came from a sort of new game in the franchise for Prince of Persia. But the developers liked the idea of an assassin and liked the idea of that. And so instead of doing Prince of Persia, they decided to do a brand new sort of series, which is completely fine. But as a Prince of Persia fan, I was hurt. But again, I was excited to hear that it was inspired by Prince of Persia, so the Prince of Persia fan inside of me was excited to play it. I remember giving it a go, being sort of completely interested, invested. And I remember, I think, is Baghdad the first place that you go to in the game? Wherever, the city you go to in there, it was from there. I just didn't like anything about it. I didn't like the look of it. I couldn't really get into the story. I didn't like the combat. I didn't like the having to sneak around and hide. Again, I was still very much young, so my love of sneaky sort of games, it wasn't there like it is today. So I remember playing it and I just couldn't get into it. Then I left it for years and years and years, and I didn't come back to Assassin's Creed until Black Flag because I love pirates. So I came back to it, and it was Black Flag is completely different. They reworked things. It played better, it looked better, it just felt better to play. And again, pirates can't beat pirates. And then from there, I just kept on playing them. So I remember I played Syndicate, and I played Origins and Odyssey, Valhalla. I especially like Origins because in Origins they kind of changed the formula to go more in the style of RPG, as unlike what the series has done before. I know a lot of hardcore fans didn't like that, but for me it was like a nice change, especially how I'd only really played um, from Black Ops onwards, and that's when they were starting to make the change anyway. And I think that's why I enjoy those games more, because I like the change. I was here for it. I was new to it. Unlike a lot of hardcore fans were kind of don't like that you've changed things that I like, which again I can understand that because many things that I've liked have been changed halfway through and I've not been happy at all. Um, but I did give Assassin's Creed a go. A couple of months, actually, no, tell a lie. I think it was November, December last year. Um, I realized I had a copy of it digitally on my Xbox and it's backwards compatible. So I think, you know what? It's been years. I probably, I've matured in myself and I've matured in my game tastes and my skill and my ability. So I was probably completely wrong about this. I feel like it's time to go back and play Assassin's Creed 1. Okay? And long story short, didn't like it. Still don't like it. Again, it was the same issue. It just felt boring. I wasn't interested in the character. I wasn't interested in any of it, um, which was a real bummer because all my friends, because I've got a lot of friends who are really big, hardcore Assassin's Creed fans. One of the guys I went to college with and university with, um, he is a huge Assassin's Creed fan. He's the reason he got me to go back and play a lot of the new Assassin's Creed games because he went on about them so much that I was like, I got to give these a go, and he used to borrow me them to play. Um, and whenever we would talk about it, he would never talk about Assassin's Creed 1. He'd only ever talk about Ezio, about Assassin's Creed 2, Revelations, I mean, Brotherhood and Revelations. He would talk, not in a bad way, but he would talk in nauseum constantly about them. And to enough where it got me hyped, where I was like, I got to give these games a go. Never really got round to them. He said that the games were different, that the combat was retuned and redone, and that the reason why Assassin's Creed is so loved and memorable today is because of the sort of the hard work Ezio had carrying the franchise, and keeping it alive, really. So I've got to experience Ezio's story. I've got to experience, I've got to go back and play Assassin's Creed 2. So I bought the Ezio collection, which comes with all of them. I haven't done this in a while, and I'm quite excited to do this. Um, I haven't done a game case sort of breakdown in a long while, so it's going to be fun to do this. So, on the front of the case, we have the Acclaim trilogy, Assassin's Creed, the Ezio collection. Bundled in this, you get Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed Revelations. On the front, you have Ezio looking badass with the two blades on his arms. Then on the back it says, Become the Legend. Make history as Master Assassin Ezio Auditore da Frenzy. Now enhanced for Xbox One. As I said, you got Assassin's Creed 2. Begin Ezio's saga and learn the ways of the assassin in the open world of the Italian Renaissance. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Now the leader of an entire brotherhood, fight in Ezio's struggle against the powerful Templar Order. And then Assassin's Creed Revelations, embark on Ezio's final journey of discovery and revelations around his destiny. Also includes all corresponding add-on content and the two short movies, Assassin's Creed Lineage and Assassin's Creed Embers. So you do get a lot in this. I managed to get this for quite cheap because I think the game came out in 2018 and I got this last year. So I managed to get it for quite cheap. But I am looking forward to playing this because, like I said, I haven't played any of them as of recording this, as with most of my reviews. Haven't played the game yet, so even though I'm recording this in July, I probably won't actually finish the first game, let's say August. And then who knows whenever I'll post it and release it after editing and all that. But I am really, really excited for this series. I haven't played Assassin's Creed 3. Never played Assassin's Creed 3. I haven't played Assassin's Creed Rogue. which I've heard is quite good. This comes, oh by the way, with all the DLC as well. So I've got all the DLC for all three games. So it's going to be a lot. There's going to be so much content to go through that I don't know when I'm actually going to get round to finishing them all. There's a potentiality that it might slip over to next year. Depends how good I am and how quick I am, because I've got other things that I want to do as well. But I will, hoping, depends how this series goes. I might look into Assassin's Creed 3. I might look into Rogue as well, because they're currently, you can buy them on the Xbox still, which is good. Um, One thing I do want to say, out of all the Assassin's Creeds that I've played, out of the newer ones, the one that confuses me the most, because again I have no idea what happened in the story, is Unity. Like, Unity is gorgeous and it's beautiful, and the parkour is the smoothest I've ever seen in any of the Creed games. But I have no idea what that story is about. I played it and I just I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, that's all I can say. I don't know. Um, I don't know why I brought that up. It's just a bit of Assassin's Creed things. I'm an Assassin's Creed fan. I'm a hardcore, but I'm hoping that to go back now to play as Ezio to properly see where these roots will lie. You know, to get this sort of. My friend was on about Desmond. Desmond's still kind of part of this story as well. To kind of see the conclusion of his story. I will end up going on YouTube most likely to kind of catch up what I missed out Assassin's Creed One, so I'm ready for Desmond in these games and sort of see how he sort of links into the rest of it. But yeah, so the first game in this series is going to be Assassin's Creed 2. So that's the review you're going to hear next. And I'm really, really excited. So, without further ado, let's get into Ezio's story of Assassin's Creed 2, shall we? Right, so it is now the Tuesday, the 1st of August. It is 9:37 at night. I've not long finished the campaign for Assassin's Creed 2. I don't know if I documented what day I actually started this. I believe I actually started this game around the beginning of July. I've been playing it on and off here and there. It's not because, well, as you will come to find in this review, it's not because I really haven't enjoyed myself. It's just the fact of I've been really, really busy all of July. So I finally got around to completing it. And to be honest, you can already tell that I actually probably enjoyed this game. It's not just because I've done the review and I had to complete it, but generally I did. I completed it from start to finish. I've still got the collectibles to do. Like, I've got to find all the feathers. I think I found like 20 feathers. And I've got the subject 16 glyphs to find. I think I found 11 so far, and there's 20 in total. Um, I don't know if I'm going to get all the feathers, if I'm going to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, all you get is an auditory cape, which is fantastic. But when you actually end up wearing that cape, and this is what a friend told me, is that when you wear the cape, every single town that you go to, you're instantly wanted by everybody, and nobody likes you. So it's like, yeah, I have this really nice, cool thing, but I just can't wear. So is it worth the achievement when you only get 10G? Not really. Especially you get a cape that you can't really properly fully use as well. Yeah, so but the glyphs, I'll get those because I want to see the whole truth. I want to see that the whole big sort of cutscene. That once you get all 20 of them, you get to see this big cutscene about the people who came before, and before they were killed behind the giant solar storm and all that. But yeah, I completed it. I loved it, enjoyed it. This is my review. So, the story I find quite interesting. A lot more, way more interesting than Assassin's Creed 1. In the first one, like I mentioned in the introduction, I didn't really feel a connection to Altair at all. I didn't like the color palette. I think it was really grey and drab and dreary and boring. Baghdad didn't really feel very mystical and magical, or any really place that we went to didn't. It just didn't. I was expecting Prince of Persia. Maybe when I first played it, I was expecting Prince of Persia, very sort of colourful and bright, loads of golds, a lot of really wonderful, beautiful sort of art and design, and it was just very boring. And For the story, it just didn't pull me in. And even when I tried to play it again, even with fresh eyes, it just wasn't doing it for me. Here, I'm invested. I'm interested. Ezio, he's a young man. He starts off his adventures as a young man, as a lad, really, as a bit of a player. He's got his mates. He's causing fights. He's courting young ladies. He's having his you know young man stuff. I don't have to elaborate. You know what I'm talking about, right? When you're young, you do these things. But he's living life. He's fun. And then bit of spoiler here, if you haven't played this game or you don't want any spoilers, click off now. But his family, well, his two brothers and his dad are all killed in front of him, and this leads him down sort of a path of revenge. And as he goes through the story, he starts to realize that revenge is not really the answer, and that he finds the creed, he finds the assassins, he finds a new way of life and a new sort of basically he comes to terms with what happened, and how that he finds peace in the people that killed his most of his family, and he becomes sort of the assassin that we know of, in the history books of Assassin's Creed, as well as the next few games. And it's very clear, because when Altair first get, I mean not Altair, when Ezio first gets the hidden blade and goes on his first sort of assassination, I can't remember the name of the guy that he kills, but usually in Assassin's Creed, and I know this from hindsight from playing the future games, but you when you kill it's like when you assassinate somebody, it is a passage to the next life. It should be peaceful. That no matter what grudges or what hatred you had towards the person, that once they are dead, they are free, and that they are to be judged by their god, or they are to kind of go on the next journey, or whatever it is, depending on the character who does the assassin as well as the game and setting. But either way, it's a form of peace, of letting go of one's pain and letting it come into the blade and through them, and then they will hopefully in the next life be a better person. That's sort of my interpretation of it anyway. But when Ezio makes his first kill, it's not clean. He stabs the guy multiple times with a hidden blade, just repeatedly. He's covered in blood, and this is the style of a young man, of a young man who is full of rage, full of hate, full of revenge. And straight away he quickly sort of learns this is not the way, this is not how I want to live my life. And eventually, as he becomes more of an assassin, he does do the clean kills, and he does the rituals, and he gives them sort of a nice sort of passage of like, rest now, go in peace, that sort of thing. And he really sort of comes in on himself. So the story revolves around revenge and the pieces of Eden and the Borgia, and the whole setting. Like, I love it. I love Italy and Rome and Florence and Venice. I've never been, but I'd love to go. These places I'd love to visit. But it's all very, very gorgeous. And I'll get onto that in a minute, in the whole sort of the setting and the time frame when I get to it. But the story really pulls me in. That story of revenge. You give me a good revenge story and a good character, good interesting character like Ezio, you pull me in. As well, when you look at Ezio compared to Altair, I can't really say much about Altair because, again, I didn't really much play this. I couldn't get into his character, so I didn't play the rest of the story. So I can't say if he is an interesting character. He wasn't to me, but again, I can't say that in fully. So I just want to be open and honest about that, because I didn't finish the game. I can't say if he was a really interesting character because, well, all I can say is I've played him for a couple times, and I really couldn't get into him. But Ezio, I would say, feels like the more interesting character because I finished the game, because I wanted to keep playing, because I had to pull myself away, because I had to do other reviews, or I had to, live life, I had to read that book, watch that TV show, or that sort of thing for podcasting and just life in general. So it says a lot when one character pulls you in and the other one doesn't. Which one's the more interesting? Now, I guess the hardcore fan listening to me, listen to this even, it's probably shouting down at their screen or their phone, but like, you don't know what you're talking about. Shut up, Ezio and Altair, two completely different characters, and Altair's better, and that's fair enough. These are my opinions, and if you don't agree with me, that's completely fair. I take it all, what I say as my opinion, and if you disagree, that's fine, because we all have different opinions. I just think Ezio is more interesting character. in my opinion. But again, it is my opinion. As for the gameplay is a lot of fun. It seems that they have really worked out the kinks, that all the issues that I had with Assassin's Creed One. The parkour is a lot more fluid. The combat is a lot more fun, a lot more easier to do. You have the chance of strafing and dodging, which I think you probably had them in the first game, but again, I really didn't get that far into it. But everything just seemed better. It upgraded. It's like they took the feedback of the first game and really improved it here. The only real big gripe I have is with Ezio and the parkour, and even though the parkour is a lot more fluid, and I can tell that in the later games they really improved on it, mainly for two reasons. One, again, like I said, I've played a lot of the future Creed games, and those games in terms of the parkour and the running from building to building is a lot more smoother. There are also a chance of, like, if there is a ledge there, and if the character, plausibly and logically could reach that ledge, when you jump from a building to building, you will grab onto that ledge, or if you fall, you grab onto the ledge underneath it. There'll always be something to hold on to unless you kind of throw yourself at a flat wall, right? So there were many times me in that mindset of the future Assassin's Creed games thinking, well, Ezio's a master assassin, he can do this, not thinking that potentially like that's an upgraded system. So many times me running to go jump off a building, knowing full well there's a ledge there, and going, getting really close to it, and Ezio just pushes himself off, or like he's there, he could literally put his hands there, but he just doesn't, and he falls. Many times I broke my armor in this game for doing this. Many times I thought maybe it's because he's still learning. Maybe I've got to play the game a bit more, and then he learns more, and then he becomes a better assassin. So now he knows how to grab ledges and stuff like that. No, still doesn't do it. Or there are many times where he should catch it or he should jump on something, he doesn't. Nothing that I don't like. And I know I'm not the only one who has this issue because I spoke to other friends. This was an issue that was with Assassin's Creed 2. Hopefully they fixed it for Revelations and Brotherhood and so on. Because I know they do, because I played the future games. I just hope that with Ezio himself, they improved it as it went on. But Ezio doesn't jump where you want him to jump at all. There are many times, especially when I was doing like the Assassin's Tombs, there are these tombs hidden throughout the game. If you complete them, they're like jumping puzzles mostly and time trials. And if you complete them, you get the seals, and then if you get enough seals, you can unlock Altia's armor, which is the strongest armor in the game. I don't think it even breaks at all, which is really, really helpful for me jumping up buildings, not getting ledges, so I don't have to repair my armor all the time. And also it just makes combat easy, and you get a lot more health points. So I could just button mash in combat and stuff like that. But get into the combat in a minute. I'm talking about parkour, the most important part. Anyway, yeah, Altia doesn't just jump where you want him to. There were many times that I failed those challenges, had to reset them. Because Altia, like I'd tell him to jump forwards and he would jump sideways. Or like I'd tell him to jump sideways and he'd jump backwards. Even if I had the camera pointing to where I wanted to go, he wouldn't do it. Or if I asked him to jump sideways, he'd jump up. Or there would be times where there was a ledge. Like for example, when you finally get to Venice, there are times where you have to jump from one area of the city to the next. And sometimes more than likely there is a bridge, but me being a very impatient person, I don't really want to get the bridge, so I'd rather just like jump in the water, swim to the next little island and do that. So I'd swim, fine, no problem, and there'd be like a little boardwalk there, and I'd try to climb up, and Ezio, he could easily just climb up, no problem. He's like a rabbit. He'd have his hand stuck there, and he wouldn't move. And I would try to move him, and he would look like he's just dry humping the thing. And many times I try to go forward, sideways. He doesn't want to go sideways. Try to go right, left. Doesn't want to go do it. Doesn't want to go up because all he does is just dry hump the wood. So I have to jump off and go round to maybe another side of the boardwalk, and maybe he will climb up if he wants to, And there were many it was annoying, yes, and there were many times I was like, Ezio, please don't do this to me. Come on, Ezio, don't. Why are you going to be so annoying? And it was mostly over the little trials, but I found it funny. Yeah, it was annoying, but like it's not really something to put the game down on. Because again, if this was my first time playing, like if I didn't have a good time with Assassin's Creed 2, but I still had some hope. I'm all the way back in like 2010, 9 or 10. I think this game came out. Whenever it came out, I'm back all then. And I guess Assassin's Creed 2, and the parkour is a bit better, but it's very finicky. yeah, it'd probably get on my nerves. But me having hindsight, I've played the future games, and I know that the parkour and the jumping mechanics and the climbing mechanics are drastically improved and are way more responsive and fair and fun. That I just find it funny. I see it as a gimmick, and that's the kind of the look of hindsight and allows you to do really is to look back and be like, well, I know they fixed it eventually, so I can laugh. It's annoying, but ha ha ha, I can laugh at it here. It's fine. But I wanted to mention it because the parkour, it's good when it works. It's fluid, but there are times where it's like he should have caught that ledge, or why can't you grab that ledge, Ezio, please? And it was just me moaning at the screen of like, come on, Ezio, come on, don't do this to me. Um, the combat, like I mentioned, the combat is a lot better as well. Um, like I sort of because I had the Ubisoft Club, and also because I'm on the sort of Ezio collection, I've got all sort of the um, extra sort of club features. So I had one of the best swords you could have at the beginning of the game, and that allowed so when I had combat, and especially with the better armor, I could just. And I know this may sound bad, but to be honest, I didn't want to get into combat if I didn't have to, and I would end. I just want to assassinate because again, that's the whole point of the story. So I couldn't be bothered, even though the game taught me how to strafe and how to dodge. I didn't really do it, really. I mostly just button mash because I had the strongest sword in the game at that time, and eventually I bought Altier's sword, which is the best sword in the game. I just button mashed. I just button mashed. I just bashed the crap out of him. And there were moments when a sword just wouldn't do it. So I don't know if it's a glitch or if I don't know if it's a way to cheese an enemy or it's just sort of the way it works. But you can fight with your hidden blades, and Ezio has two of them, and you can fight with them as swords. And I found that if you were surrounded by enemies and that a sword isn't doing it and they keep deflecting the sword, if you were just to change to your hidden blades, they couldn't parry or counter your attack. You could just button mash and just hit them with your hidden blade until eventually the health would go down, and then a small little sort of animation would play of Ezio just jumping on top of them and like stabbing them in the neck or in the chest. Um, or even if you first go into combat, before you pull your sword out, if you pull your hidden blades out, depends how close the enemies, you could either take two enemies down at once, or you could just take the one guy out first, and that would just end the combat there. So you didn't have to get into combat. You could easily get one or two, if you're lucky, assassinations off. Or if you're like me, you just drop a smoke and you just assassinate everybody and then run away. So there were different ways to handle each situation, and I like that. Granted, for a person like me who wanted to cheese it and didn't really want to properly do the combat, the way it's meant to be done. I still enjoyed myself. I still had fun. I just like the idea that if I ever get stuck in a combat and my sword's not really cutting it, pardon the pun, that was unintentional pun, but it worked fantastically. Then I know I could pull my hidden blades out and I could just cheese an enemy, no matter how strong the enemy was. I could just hit them and they couldn't counter it. So I just hit them. And if I was near water, I knew I could grab them and push them in the water. Or if I was near on the ledge of a building, I could just hit them to enough and they would just fall off and die anyway, which made things very, very easy, a lot more fun. Again, the assassinations more fun as well. I can't see any difference between the assassinations here and the assassinations in the first AC. But it's still very much fun. It never gets boring, and it never has to me for any Assassin's Creed games I've played to assassinate. It's still fun. Um, so yeah, so the gameplay, parkour, fun, interesting. When Altier. I keep getting confused because I've got. I mean, I got Altier on the brain. When Ezio wants to play ball, he will play ball. Otherwise, it's just funny, and annoying but somewhat funny. As for the setting and the time frame, this is sort of the center of the Renaissance, Renaissance Italy. You get to meet such lovely characters. One of my favorite of all Renaissance painters and inventors, Leonardo da Vinci. I think this guy is incredible, not just in Assassin's Creed. Like he's really, really fun played out in Assassin's Creed. He's a young man in Assassin's Creed 2, and he helps you unlock new features for your hidden blade, and he helps you like decipher the code ciphers, which eventually helps you define the vault, which is kind of helps you with the sort of end game part of it all, the end of the story, and it's I'm trying to explain it. He's very interesting. Like you get to use his flying machine, which is great. I just and one of the reasons why I love Assassin's Creed so much is because I get to go back and I get to, in a way, I know it's not somewhat completely 100% accurate, historically accurate, but I get to go back in time and I get to meet people like Leonardo da Vinci and I get to talk to them. Well, the character gets to talk to them, I just get to observe. But even so, I get to go back and actually experience somewhat a character of what they were like. One of the reasons why I love what was it, Black Flag so much is because I get to meet Blackbeard, which I love. Blackbeard, fascinated with the bloke. He was and is um, a mystery because nobody really knows where he came from. He just popped up one day, sailed the seas, and then yeah, he was killed. Um, but he was absolutely fascinating, and the whole legend behind him, and it's all the other characters you get to meet as well through all the other Assassin's Creed games. That it's just it's a pleasure, it's a joy, and in this setting you do get to meet many people from this time frame. The only one really memorable to me is Da Vinci, but you do get to meet the others as well. You get to go to Venice, get to go to Florence, get to go um, to Rome. You only get to Rome for a little bit, granted, um, but to go around Italy and to see again this, unlike Assassin's Creed 1, because you're in Italy and because the time frame you're in, everything is less grey. Everything is beautiful, is lovely. Granted, I'm playing on the Xbox Series X, so the game looks better because it's on the sort of Ezio collection. So everything's just been high res and running at better frames. But even so, everything just looks brighter, and as it should do. It's the Renaissance. It's Italy. Everything should have that colourful side to it. Everything should just have that beautiful look of um, well, I was going to say class, but just that classical sort of look, that classical feel. Um, and again, you have the modern buildings as well, climbing up sort of the temples and the churches and the towers and going to Venice. And Venice is a place I've always wanted to go to. Never really had the opportunity to go to yet. It's still on my bucket list. Mainly want to go there before the place gets flooded because they have a really because of climate change. They have really bad problems with flooding at the moment, and there's a lot of people saying that potentially Venice is going to be the new Atlantis. So I kind of want to go there before I have to go there in a submarine. I want to walk the streets instead of having to go into a submersible. Probably it might not happen in my lifetime, but we never know. But I still want to go there just before that. But it's just nice to go around Venice and these places. You do spend, to be honest, it feels that you spend most of your time in Venice because most of it, to me, it felt like the majority of the bulk of the missions were in Venice. But you go to a lot of places, and I can't remember the time frame. I think it's 14. I think it's 1459 to 1477. I think. I don't have the game up at the moment, so I can't. I'm more than likely I am wrong. I know it's 1400s, I think, and I think Brotherhood takes place in the 1500s, and so does Revelations when Ezio is basically an old man. I think so anyway. Don't quote me on that. But again, time frame, setting, perfect. They really did a great job with the level design. Everything looks the way it should do for the time frame. Um, and one thing I didn't notice, it wasn't like if the game hadn't told me. And again, maybe this is me just not paying attention. Maybe it is obvious. But if the game didn't tell me that like years had gone by, or it wasn't in the story that years had gone by when he meets characters like, oh, I haven't seen you in years, blah blah blah, then I wouldn't be able to tell because it doesn't feel like the towns that you go to change with time. They all seem to look the same. It doesn't seem like anything's improved. The architecture doesn't seem to change. The buildings somewhat look the same as they did, 10, 20 years ago. And you could say the fact of that is because they didn't change things in that quicker time back then. Again, I don't know. I'm not a historian, but I would have liked a little. Maybe there was, but me personally, I would have liked a bit more, some more visual cues of like, oh, this area that was once poor and decrepit because of the work that Ezio has done This has now been revitalized. So years like 2 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever, it was a decrepit place of slums and poverty. Now it is revitalized, and there are people there thriving, and life is happy, and there's children running around, and blah 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 blah. I would just like, again, I'm just nitpicking here, but I would just like those things just to show the passage of time of, like, not just say, oh, we are now in this year, and now this many years have passed. Just show me how things have changed, show me how things look, because there is a feature in this game where you have your own little town, your own little villa, and you can renovate it. So the money that you get, the florins, you can spend them on renovations. And in all fairness, yes, you can make the buildings look nicer and revitalize them, and then with doing that will bring more money into the city, which then periodically through the game you can go back to your villa, collect that money and income, and spend it on weapons and armor and paintings for the villa and that sort of thing. And granted, over time, from doing that, and from the years that are spent in the game, you do see your villa, the actual villa itself, it changes. It has less, like, there's less boards on the windows. Everything is more painted, and everything on the inside is glorious and lovely. And there's trees growing where there wasn't trees before. So there you do get a reflection, but not really outside the villa. Like the buildings, apart from the ones that you've revitalized, they change because they look less decrepit. But that's the only really place in the game that actually looks like it's changed through the passage of time. Everywhere else doesn't. Maybe because they don't have a wealthy assassin backing them, giving them revenue. I don't know. But yeah, I just would have liked, that's just a little nitpick from me. I would just like to see that more in terms of the level design and setting. But again, it is an Xbox 360 game. I've been tainted by next gen, and I expect that in a next gen game. So I shouldn't judge it. It's just a little thing. There's a little thing for me, but it's not an issue. It's really, really not an issue. It's more of a me problem than a you problem. So don't take that into any sort of account. It's just something that I wanted to mention. If anything, I just wanted to rant about it. Overall, sort of my conclusion, because then isn't, I know we've been talking for 25 minutes, but this is not going to be a very, very long review. It's mostly just my thoughts and opinions. My overall sort of conclusion is that I think this game's a lot better than Assassin's Creed 1 by far. I had a lot more fun with it. I stuck to it to the end. I completed it. I even want to go back now and do the last few collectibles, more than likely, if I'm being honest with myself, and bit of a secret between you and me and you beans. Probably not going to collect all the feathers. I was thinking about it while I was talking. Probably not going to do that now, but I will, because again, I've got 11 of them, and there's 20 in total, so I haven't got that many left to find. I'll find the rest of the glyphs, and then once I've done that, then I'll go to Revelations. But it says a lot how much I enjoyed this game, because I kept playing. I kept coming back. I had to pull myself away to do other things. I enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't played Assassin's Creed 2, definitely give it a go. It's got a better, way more interesting character than Altia, way more interesting setting. It's been refined. It took everything from Assassin's Creed 1 and improved upon it. Yeah, like the facial, like, there are things you can nitpick, and again, you can do this because it's an older game compared to a newer game. The facial animations are not that overly or fantastic. The fingers are blocky. They look like really bad square sausages. But again, that was just sort of the technology for the time. It's funny looking at the facial animations, because it just looks like someone's got a face and they've copy and paste facial features on top of it. But it doesn't look right. But again, that's just how games looked back then. And you kind of forget it, because at the time that was like, oh god, this game's a beautiful, gorgeous, like, ahead of its time. And then you look at it now, you're like, oh. And maybe because the up-res and better frame rate makes those things look less good, but like, I'm just saying, like, I'm not taking the piss. I'm just generally, I just find these things funny. They interest me. This is kind of why I like playing older games, because you notice these things and like, that looked beautiful when I first played it. Now, not so much, but I can still enjoy it for what it is, not for what it looks like now. I can enjoy it for what it was back then. As for sort of moving on to looking at Revelations, or not Revelations, sorry, Brotherhood. I don't know when I'm going to get round to Brotherhood, to be honest, um, because I have a sort of other game that I want to cover, um, which I can't talk about because it's. I was just about to mention it, and then I was like, no, look, don't pull myself back there because there's another game that I want to play and complete, and it's one of those games that, without well, it was not really spoilers, but without really getting into it fully, that game that I was thinking of, to get the full sort of experience of what it is, you have to play it more than once. Um, I ain't going to say any more because if I say any more, well, I just feel like I'll spoil it. Um, but there are other game. There is another game that I want to play and get ready. Which, in all fairness, you won't see that game review for. Oh, hold on, it's August now. For a while, um, but I want to pre-do it because I know how long it's going to take me because I have to play it in full twice to get the full gist. Like, for this is what I've been told, that you've got to play it twice to get the full sort of spectrum and idea of what that game is. So if I want to review it, I have to do that. So I don't know when I'm going to get around to Brotherhood because I want to, when I get into it, I want to properly dive into it and experience it for everything that it is, so I can do a proper, fair sort of review on it. So I don't know when that one I'll get around to playing it or when the review for that will come. Hopefully, it will still be this year. Fingers crossed. But I look forward to Brotherhood. I look forward to Revelations, to be honest. I look forward to seeing the rest of Ezio's story. I look forward to seeing how Desmond sort of links into this, because how this game ends, it's not really an ending for Ezio. Even Ezio's like, wait, what? I don't understand. I'm confused. And obviously, I guess I would be as well. Like, if I was a fan of Assassin's Creed games and I played Assassin's Creed 2, I grinded through the whole game for the whole all the missions, only to get to the end, and then to realize actually she's not there to talk to me, she's there to talk to Desmond. You know, um, I would be a bit like, and especially how it ends on the cliffhanger, but what? No, why? Like, it's an interesting ending, but it's like that's not what I was hoping for. But again, because of hindsight, I'm not bumhurt. I don't mind because I know, one, I have the sequel with me, so I can play the sequel. But also, I know that it's not really the end. But just imagine Assassin's Creed 2 just didn't work and it failed. Um, and Ubisoft was like, "That's it. We're dropping the Assassins franchise and we're moving on." How bad it would have been if it would have ended there. Oh God. And we can laugh about it now, ha ha ha. But back then, that probably would have really hurt a lot of people. But I am looking forward to it. I am excited. Like I said, my overall conclusion is: if you haven't played Assassin's Creed 2, give it a go. If you have, then I want to hear about it. I want to hear your thoughts and feelings. I want to hear if you liked it, or if you didn't like it, or you preferred Brotherhood, or preferred Revelations, or are you a fan of Ezio, or you a fan of Altair? Anything and everything really. All your thoughts and feelings. I want to hear. You can let me know on Twitter, or should I say X? Because it's not Twitter anymore, it's X, which I'm still going to call it Twitter. You know what it is if I say Twitter. If I say, let me know on X, it just sounds stupid. But don't blame me, blame Elon Musk. But, I want to hear about all your feedback on Twitter at Nerdstalgic_pod. Just let me know there. Or if you listen to this on YouTube, just write down in the comment section, either to the reply to the pinned comment, or just write your own comment below and let me know, if you agree, if you disagree, all that jazz. Also, you can find the Nerdstalgic podcast basically everywhere and anywhere that you can find podcasts. The only place you can't find me is Apple, because I don't like Apple, and I'll be honest with you, I refuse to put my podcast on Apple because I just don't have any Apple products and I don't like Apple. It's more of me choice, nothing to do with you guys, you beans. I just don't like Apple, and that's why I'm not on there. But yeah, you can also find me on Audible. You can find me on oh God, I had it then. I said Spotify. Yeah, well, I said Spotify. Yeah, you can basically find me anywhere, everywhere, anywhere. Just go into Google, type in the Nerdstalgic podcast, and you'll get a whole list of places where you can find and listen to my podcast. Also, talking about Spotify, if you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to give me a star rating. 1 to 5 stars, whatever you feel like is fair. 5 stars, you completely agree with me and Ezio is better than Altair. Or 1 star, you completely disagree and that Altair is king and that I have no idea what I'm talking about. Again, whatever you feel like is fair. Again, this is all my opinions. And I'm sure there are people out there who are going to disagree with me because not everybody agrees on everything, and that's fine. And what kind of reviewer would I be if I slandered everybody else's views and had mine as king? At the end of the day, these are my opinions, and you're free to have yours, and I'm free to have mine. And if you disagree, that's completely fine with me. I'm just glad you listened, and I'm glad that you gave my thoughts and feelings and my opinion a go, even if you disagree. So whatever you feel like is fair, 1 to 5 stars will help me out immensely. Also, like and subscribe on YouTube because you have to add that in. If you don't, apparently according to YouTube, if you don't say it at least 2 to 3 times an episode, people just don't do it. And I think I've said it more than that now, so fingers crossed. I'm currently at 91 subs, so really, really need it. But I'm currently scatterbrained and I'm just sort of babbling now, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you very, very much for listening to my review of Assassin's Creed 2. Thank you for listening to the Nerdstalgic podcast also. It helps me immensely and I just love doing this. So it gives me more sort of support and more drive to carry on. And yeah, so thank you very, very much for listening. I've been your host, Luke the Human, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye.